Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. This video is going to be different from the normal anime vid on my channel. Given that this is the first anime video on here, this isn't what you should expect from my future videos. This video is going to be deeper and more personal because today I'm going to be going over why Tokyo Ghoul is my favorite anime. Or even more so, why it holds a very special place in my heart. Now, I think it's fair to say that everyone who watches anime has that one show that holds a special place in their heart, and in most cases, it's typically the first anime they ever watched. To me, that show is Sword Art Online, and that's not necessarily what you're expecting me to say. That's because the reason I fell in love with Tokyo Ghoul was for a completely different reason. To be honest, Tokyo Ghoul probably wouldn't be my favorite anime had I not discovered it under the circumstances which I did. It's relatively scaled back compared to most of the shonen anime I like. However, this was actually beneficial to Tokyo Ghoul as it added a sense of realism to it. Around the time where I discovered Tokyo Ghoul, I was going through a lot. This was around the time of my 16th birthday, and for those of you who know what went down around then, well, you know. But for those of you who don't, I'm going to phrase it in a way that it doesn't reveal what it was, but you can still know how I was feeling. Around that time, I lost someone very significant to me, to the point where I became very depressed and confused. To put it simply, I was a mess. Every day I would wake up, get out of bed, go to school, go home, and get back in bed. That was it. Life was extremely bland. Every second of every day I felt like I spent thinking about the person and the events that happened in regards to it. I even took a break from YouTube because I wasn't in a mental state where I wanted to make videos. I was in a place that I had no way of knowing how to get out of. I'm not going to state that Tokyo Ghoul miraculously helped fix me, because it didn't. However, having Tokyo Ghoul there definitely helped me a lot. I think it's important to mention that Tokyo Ghoul was the first series where I actually read the manga. One day I wandered into the library at my school and decided to look around. After looking through lots of books, I noticed the artwork on one of the covers of the first book in the Tokyo Ghoul series. I was intrigued because I loved the red eye he had on the cover, as well as I had seen that series pop up in my Hulu recommendations. So I thought, heck, I'll give it a shot. Following that, every day in study hall I'd get whatever homework I had left done, and then proceed to read Tokyo Ghoul. One odd thing to add is that during this time, school came very easily to me because it was the least of my worries. I had straight A's and hardly ever had homework, and when I ran out of homework to distract myself with, I'd read Tokyo Ghoul. Otherwise, I probably would most likely listen to music and gotten more depressed. Thankfully, I did have Tokyo Ghoul to distract me though. Huge shout out to Aiden, my bud at school. He's the one who actually lent me the books to read after my public library ran out. So, huge shout out to you. This isn't in the script, but I just genuinely want to thank you, dude. Anyways, that's where the actual story behind Tokyo Ghoul comes into play. Just to clarify, I'm only going to be talking about the contents of the original Tokyo Ghoul, not as much RE. With that in mind, this video is going to have spoilers, so you've been warned. Tokyo Ghoul is, for the most part, a tragedy. Our main character, King Kaneki, is living a normal human life, then out of nowhere, his world is flipped upside down. He goes out on a date with a ghoul who then attempts to attack and try to eat him. However, by a stroke of luck, he escapes with his life. However, he is severely injured and on the brink of death. Under emergency circumstances, a doctor performs surgery on Kaneki using the ghoul's organs to keep him alive. This, in return, keeps him alive, but it also turns him into a ghoul. Kaneki is faced with the brutal realization that his life will never be the same. He's a ghoul with human morals. What makes a ghoul different from humans is their abilities and craving for human flesh. A ghoul's hunger can only be satisfied through the consumption of human flesh, and to them, every other food tastes practically hellish. The only thing that Kaneki finds that tastes the same is coffee. This concept is very unique, and in more ways than one, the story of Tokyo Ghoul can be applied to everyday life. For example, imagine one day you wake up and can't walk, or maybe someone very near and dear to you passes away. Or for my instance, I lost someone very significant to me. In that instant, your whole world is flipped upside down. To me, I found a lot of comfort in the characters in the story. You get to know many different people, some of which are ghouls and others are humans. you get to know that for ghouls, not all of them are evil. In fact, a lot of them would probably prefer to be human. Many of them seek shelter and protection under the Anti-Coup Cafe. This is eventually where our main character Kaneki will flock to, as he has nowhere else to go. He gets to know all the people who work at the cafe, and he begins to look at them as family, sharing his day-to-day life with them and going through many experiences that he will never forget alongside them. One person in particular forms a very special bond with Kaneki, and that person is Toka Kirishima. There once again another tragic story. However, in this case, it is a love story. It's not apparent that Kaneki and Toka have feelings for each other at first, but it becomes clear once Kaneki is taken by Jason. One day in the small Anti-Coup Cafe, Yakuma Amuri, otherwise known as Jason or Yamori, enters and attacks Kaneki. Kaneki, not knowing how to control his newly obtained ghoul powers, is left defenseless and at the mercy of Yamori. Alongside Jason is Toka's brother, Aedo, who had been separated from her while she was still rather young. The two of them face off for a small bit, but the outcome of the fight is very clear. Aedo is way stronger than Toka. With this being the case, they are left defenseless and at the mercy of the two. And as Jason takes interest in Kaneki only being a one-eyed ghoul, he then proceeds to capture him. There's a lot of symbolism in the story of Tokyo Ghoul, and honestly, two of the biggest concepts are loss and helplessness. This, unfortunately, is a very good example of this. Against their will, Kaneki and Toka are separated, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. However, determined to help the defenseless Kaneki, the family of Anti-Coup agrees to band together on a mission to retrieve Kaneki. One critical thing that I have left out intentionally is who Jason is, or more so his past. Jason is a ghoul. However, unlike Kaneki, Jason has a lot of influence and power in the ghoul community. So, in between this clip and the last one, I went to a concert, so if my voice sounds kinda shot, you know why. Here's a clip of that. In the same room, I don't like to be wrong, which I know you relate to. Kinda why make you feel like you're at the end of your road. That's when I look at you and tell you I'll be better alone. Just a pride talking, there's some niggas both of us know. I'm the definition of break if you look into my soul. Anyways, let's get back to the video. I just wanted to make that disclaimer. Jason didn't obtain his power easily. In fact, he was tortured beyond the point of no return to obtain it. Against his will, he was captured and tortured for the information he held about the 13th Ward. He was tortured until his mind literally broke. He eventually created a safe place in his mind and slowly convinced himself that he was the torturer. He learned various methods to put someone in excruciating pain throughout his seemingly endless torture sessions. The one way he was able to retain some sanity was by counting backwards by sevens from 1,000. This was to keep his brain active and to keep him focused on something. However, in a sense, very true to life, not all people learn to forgive, and instead they seek revenge. This is what Jason did. He picked up torture as his morbid hobby, and it helped him feel excitement in his life. This is why everyone at Anti-Coup was so worried. They knew Jason's morbid hobby, and they knew if they couldn't get Kaneki back in time, the same thing would happen. Unfortunately, despite their best efforts, they didn't arrive in time. And as predicted, Kaneki is tortured. He is tortured in various ways. His fingers and toes are cut off every time they regrow. He has shots injected under his eyelids, and he even has a living centipede put into his ear. It's truly a dark scene, and it happens to be a fan favorite. The reason that fans love this scene isn't for the torture. In fact, it can be very disturbing at times to watch. The reason they love this scene is because he becomes an incredibly powerful ghoul, and he gets revenge on Yamori. A lot of people tend to overlook how deeply sad this scene is. Kaneki is tortured to the point of insanity. The only reason he becomes strong enough to kill his torturer is because he's practically dead inside. In order to obtain power in this dark world, he's forced to go through a life-changing experience. And as much as it helps him, it too has hurt him. This is once again another message of change. Kaneki is forced through another life-changing event, and he will never be the same because of it. Afterwards, Kaneki goes on with his life as best as he can, but unfortunately once again his life changes. Shortly after Kaneki is tortured, the story moves on to the Owl arc. This is where the doves, people who hunt and kill ghouls for a living, start to track down and hunt the owl. The Owl is a triple S class threat, and there's never been a ghoul as strong as him at this point in the series. Who the Owl is isn't revealed until it's already too late. The Owl is Mr. Yoshimura, better known as the owner of the cafe, Anteku. This comes as a shock because Mr. Yoshimura is a very peaceful man. You eventually are told about his past and how he has struggled a lot in life, and he eventually gave up his life of killing to become the owner of the cafe. But before the people of Anteku had time to properly react, the battle between the CCG and Anteku begins. This is a large battle and many people were killed. This is essentially the climax of Tokyo Ghoul, and while it's the climax of the show, it doesn't necessarily have a happy ending. Many characters we know are killed, Yoshimura included. However, despite what one might think, it doesn't affect Kaneki nearly as much as the death of another character. Yoshimura's death mainly provides the same eye-opening experience to the people of Anteku that Kaneki already knows. Once again, I left out a very important character to this series. This character is Hideyoshi Nagachika, better known as Hide. Throughout the entirety of the show, Hide was there for Kaneki. The two are best friends, and it's clear they're very important to each other. Hide is the one human friend that Kaneki stays close to, and despite his knowledge, Hide joins the CCG and starts helping them with their case. He eventually finds out that Kaneki is the killer ghoul known as the Eye Patch, but it doesn't bother him. Kaneki is his best friend, and nothing will change that. However, despite that, Hide is there during the Battle of Anteku, and he's badly injured in an attack. Meanwhile, Kaneki is fighting a strong member of the CCG known as Amon, and is almost killed. Now, before I talk about this, I need to tell you that the manga and anime end very differently. I'm going to go over each one because they're extremely different. In the anime, after his fight with Amon, Kaneki wanders to the cafe where he finds Hide. Hide then explains that he knew all along that Kaneki was a ghoul. This was truly a heart-touching scene and a very sad one too. By the time Kaneki realizes that Hide is bleeding out, it's too late. With no other choice, Kaneki brings a slowly dying Hide into the hands of the CCG, until he arrives in front of a character known as Arma, who has never lost a fight, a character symbolizing certain death. And with that, the screen fades. However, in the manga, Kaneki is very injured in the fight with Amon, and he crawls into the sewers in hopes of regenerating. However, with no hope, out of nowhere, Hide approaches Kaneki. He once again confesses the truth. However, this time, we're left with a rather skin-crawling statement from Hide. He looks at Kaneki and says, "Please, eat me." Following that, Kaneki exits the sewer uninjured and accidentally runs into Arma, where he is only able to put a single scratch on his face. And that's it. Anteku burns down and the world is left in despair. Now, there's more to the story in the continuation of it, aka the Re section. However, I only want to talk about the main story, at least for today. This is the story of Tokyo Ghoul, my favorite anime. I know, it's pretty sad, right? And, well, the answer is yes. However, there's a very deep message behind Tokyo Ghoul, and that's why it continues to be my favorite. Tokyo Ghoul is the story of loss. Kaneki goes through many life-changing tragedies, and he's never the same. This concept is very true to life. There are a lot of people that go through unfair, in many cases, cruel events in life. The story of Tokyo Ghoul is beautifully put together because it sticks to the concept that life isn't always fair. You don't always live the life that you intended to, and life typically never goes as planned. Tokyo Ghoul is a story that shows that it's okay for things to not go as planned. And ultimately, it's a story about not taking life for granted, because you never know when your life could flip upside down. For the better or for the worse, this is why I love Tokyo Ghoul. It taught me the valuable life lesson of not taking the things I love for granted in life. It taught me that I was a very blind kid when I was younger. I took everything that I had in life for granted. Then, out of nowhere, it was stripped away from me. Tokyo Ghoul is a beautiful story that made me fundamentally change. This is why it's my favorite anime, and this is why I'm nothing but grateful for reading it. I know, that was a very deep video. But hey, if you managed to stick around this long, thank you. I've put a lot more time in this video than I've ever put into a video before. It'd be very much appreciated if you hit that like button. And if you seriously enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to catch up to some friends, so yeah, it'd be really much appreciated. But with that being said, if you haven't checked out Tokyo Ghoul, I 10 out of 10 recommend it. It's my favorite series I've ever read or watched, and I did my best to leave a lot out so you can still experience the show if you decide to watch it. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. My name is Billbster, and I will catch you in the next video. 15 likes and I'll release another one within the week. Peace out.